Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and we're back here in Point Lookout. So the lighthouse is there, so we're kind of on this rocky there's sandbars and piles of rocks and stuff to talk about a location that I think's got quite an interesting background to it, which is this little boat here. Loath to call it a shipwreck because it's quite a small vessel, but this is the USS Ozymandias, and it comes from a company called Bushy Energy Partners, and it was sent to this area to conduct surveys of natural gas deposits in Point Lookout and the area of Point Lookout. And Caroline Saunders is the lead chemist. She was the only candidate that had any experience with wetland excavations, because obviously this area is kind of a swamp. So we can come inside this little boat, and it's obviously sprung a few leaks. It's not in great shape, to be honest. But we've got radios and garbage cans and things like that. But we do have this terminal here, which does let us look at a couple of things. But we're gonna have to do a little quest to get all the details. So we're gonna have a look at the mission parameters. So this is the actual project that was going on. So Bishy Energy Partners has authorised Natural Gas Survey Project ND 16001 to perform field research. Private contractor Caroline Saunders shall be present as Principal Geological Chemist on behalf of Bishy Natural Gas Co. Local authorisation for this experiment is granted in agreement with the Isla Negra real estate company with representatives located locally. Principal Chemist Saunders is to take multiple soil samples and report on concentration of natural gas resources. Her spoken authorisation signature will be needed on at least 3 survey sites to conduct further research in this area. Should these authorisations be granted, use this terminal to access expeditionary supplies to continue data gathering while Bishy extraction crews are assembled. And then we have some intern research assistants that are here to help Caroline. Kay Lovett, M. Roach, and L. Rourke, and P. Antoine. So, we can't do anything with these just yet. I think we can, we can have a look at some of these. So one of the things that Caroline Saunders' superiors had some concerns about her, as she was a known liberal with academic ties, which obviously makes her the devil incarnate. But the company are kind of concerned about what she's going to discover here in Point Lookout. And that concern is that she's going to discover that the large amount of biogas that's found in the area is from the mass graves that were left behind after the American Civil War. We know that, we can still find Confederate hats and things in Point Lookout. We know that it was obviously an important location during that war, and it would be quite a big deal if the information was to get out into the public. So you'll notice the name at the top of this email is the same as the name of one of the research interns that were listed in the previous entry, and that is Dr. Martin J. Roach. So he was sent to pose as a research intern to Caroline Saunders and to assist with the study of the area, because her experience is the only real suitable candidate. But because she's a known liberal with academic ties, we have only recently acquired excavation rights in the area. We believe that the mass burials of the American Civil War in this region have made the soil ripe for our purposes. And that's the same reason that they're apprehensive about Saunders' liberal leanings. So they're worried that with her political views, that might cause them some problems. So Dr. Roach's mission is to prevent her from discovering the link between Point Lookout's bloody past and its probable richness in natural biogas resources. And Code Blue protocols are authorised per your discretion. Saunders must be prevented from hampering this resource at every cost. Then there's another one here, which is Code Blue for immediate implementation, I think that says. So this entry is quite corrupted. We believe Saunders has made contact, something academic contact, wire communication records, something that Saunders is attempting to lie concentrations associated with decomposed enact code blue protocol leave no evidence. Repeat enact code. So it's corrupt there, but you can get a gist of what's basically happened is that Saunders has realised the link between the biogas and the mass graves from the Civil War, and she has tried to contact her academic colleagues, and she's connected lie concentrations associated with decomposed bodies, and it is something that can be used for that purpose. For legal reasons, this is just to explain the story. But that started a quest called An Antique Land, which we'll get to in just a second. But lye can be used to speed up the decomposition process and dissolve the remains of dead bodies, and particularly soda lye, which is sodium hydroxide. And that's why the alkali metals are called that. Just as a side note, I think probably most of us at school science class have seen what happens when you put sodium or potassium in water and it kind of explodes and catches fire and things. So when you put an alkali metal and it reacts with water, it creates a strong alkaline solution as well as the fun explosions in the hydrogen gas. So what's left in that solution, if it's sodium, it would be sodium hydroxide, which is a strong alkali that can speed up the decomposition process. And decomp does lead to formation and release of methane as well as other sort of gases as the organic material breaks down. And a couple of fun facts for you. Maybe you won't consider them fun facts, I don't know. But this process does lead to the formation of these gases, and it can be used, therefore, to detect hidden or unmarked graves. As that set us up for the quest it has. Great. I think there's mirelurks about, so I'll have to walk for a bit or get stuck on the scenery. That too. So you can use, because you can get, little machines that detect trace amounts of specific gases and things in the air. So you could use that to find hidden graves and unmarked graves. That's a possibility. And the other thing related to that is that, methane obviously we know is flammable. That these gases produced by decomposing flesh are responsible for the myth of the will-o'-the-wisp, which is these kind of it's spontaneous combustion of the gases, and that creates these eerie lights that you see in bogs, and we're also seen in graveyards. Probably less common now. Quest marker is completely leading me astray here, but never mind. I'll just go over there. So that's where that comes from, and I think it's very, very interesting. I'm having a bit of an issue here where these quest markers are just not working on this. I have no idea why. It seems to be working better now. It's very strange. This has happened a few times in Point Lookout, but anyway. Yeah, so that it would be stories of, spooky lights and flickering flames in the background in graveyards that people would see, and that would be the explanation for that, is that methane is released and it manages to catch fire somehow. Probably less common modern day, because most people that are buried tend to be embalmed and treated and things, so it doesn't kind of happen. But yeah, you can see this stuff here. You've got these kind of gas bubbles coming up. And again, the quest marker is leading me straight. No, apparently I'm right where here it is. I just walked right over it. So this is what we're looking for, is 3 of these excavated muck holes. So this is the first one. And we can go in and you can actually see there's gas here. You can see the wibbling. There's also some dead people here, so possibly this is a couple of the research interns that have sadly died in here. I think there's enough bones for at least 2 people there. But you know, then we've got a bunch of stuff, biogas canisters, so you can pick these up as you go along. Don't worry about that, I've got God mode on, but we've got soil survey tape, so this is survey tape number 2. Thankfully there's no enemies in here, because if you were to fire a weapon, everything would get blown up. So we've got one, and then the next one, I think we can... I'll not be able to fast travel because of all the ghouls. So we'll go straight north first, which is that way. And we will collect the next one. So the Code Blue protocol that was mentioned on the terminal, it's not explicitly stated, but it does say leave no evidence. So it's probably more than her just being fired from the job and blacklisted by the company. It does kind of suggest that, you know, the solution is to remove her from existence and leave no trace. Here's the trash heap. You know, and Code Blue, I mean, Code Blue is obviously a well-known kind of hospital term for people, you know, that's kind of, if somebody goes into cardiac arrest, it's Code Blue, and that's how you know that you have to deal with it. But yeah, you can see you've got these bits all over this swamp here where all this gas is bubbling up. It's quite gross and creepy. And obviously the boat that we saw was wrecked as well, so part of the protocol is probably to scuttle the boat and basically destroy it so that nobody finds out what she uncovered. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and again, you know, you can see the wobbling. There's a lot of gas, a lot of rads in here as well. But you know, we've obviously got gas being released, and then we've got another survey tape, which is number 1, and another one of the biogas canisters. You've also got a good radiation suit and another dead body. So yeah, this didn't go well for these people, did it? But yeah, so we can assume that probably what happened was that Dr. Roach was supposed to kill Caroline Saunders and destroy the boat and leave no trace that she was ever there, so that they could just be like, no, we don't know what happened, she was supposed to do this job for us and she's disappeared. You know, and that way they can kind of cover up the fact that they're looking to come and basically drill into these mass graves that were left over from the Civil War, so that they could harvest the gas. And in real life, the amount of methane that's produced, even in a, you know, a mass grave, it's not really a huge amount, so it's probably not something that would be considered that realistic in the real world. But you know, you never know. You never know. I guess if there's enough bodies together, you could make something happen. It's a horrible thing to think about realistically. But we follow this side quest. I think we're pretty close to the last one. Yep. We'll head in here to find the last excavated muck hole. And we've also got gas canister stim packs. And again, you can see the gas in this little cave here. So she definitely found the gas that she was looking for. Don't know if this is who this is here, but we've got the final survey tape. And if that's just lying next to a skeleton, we can assume that this probably was Dr. Saunders, and we have her last words. So yeah, interesting situation. So once you've... Oh, it's just the bubbles. Oh, it's so creepy. So once you've collected all of those, we can head back to the little ship. So we don't really know exactly what happened to any of these people, to Caroline Saunders, to Martin Roach. Obviously the boat has been run aground, and from what we can see, we can assume that that was on purpose, so that it wouldn't be seaworthy, and then maybe Dr. Roach was supposed to get picked up by somebody. who knows, really. So we don't really know if she survived, but it's possible that he managed to kill her and then ran the boat aground and then disappeared off into the sunset. But we can at least listen to her holotapes and see exactly what happened. So we'll start at the beginning.
This is Caroline Saunders, Principal Geological Chemist for Bish National Gas Survey MD 16001. Sample set 1 shows promising concentration of biogas in mostly limestone substratum of wetlands. No exact levels yet, but this site should exhibit more than enough extraction potential to meet survey goals. I'm going to leave a couple of interns here to handle the minutiae, but it's a formality. I'll move on to the other sites now to make sure this isn't an aberration. Consider this my authorization signature on sample site 1.
There we go. So, yep, first sight, she's like, yep, this seems to be what we were looking for. Quite pleased with that. And I'm going to leave a couple of interns here. And there were a couple of skeletons there, so it could be that this all happened and then the bombs fell. Clock stopped at the time the bombs fell, interestingly, and that meant that it was never completed. And the boat was maybe in the process of being scuttled, and then the bombs fell and everybody died. So that seems like a possibility as well. Fairly common Fallout story. But tape number 2.
Caroline Saunders speaking, Principal Geological Chemist on Bish National Gas Survey MD 16001. Preliminary results from sample site 2 are promising. We're posting similar concentrations as in the first site. Similar biogas makeup here as well, including a few organic compounds that I'm not familiar with. We've also discovered heavy lye residue in a naturally formed chamber at this excavation site. Lucky we were wearing caustics gear to begin with, or somebody might have suffered some serious chemical burns. I'd like to analyze the site further, see if there's any connection between these compounds and the lye deposits. My tech is telling me he needs a couple of hours to work on our ventilator unit. I suppose I'll move on to Site 3 in the meantime. Further analysis is for my own curiosity anyway. This is my authorization signature on sample Site 2.
Okay, so yep, they've discovered some lye deposits and some caustic chemicals that could have caused burns if they weren't wearing appropriate protection against these kinds of chemicals. So she wants to investigate further, but the tech needs time to fix the ventilation in that excavation site, so she moves on to the third one. So we'll have a listen to that.
What in the world have we tapped into? Sample Site 3 is showing biogas concentration off the charts. Wetland substratum is surprisingly dense limestone at all excavation sites, and we've had no trouble locating naturally formed chambers. This and the dense calcite formation suggest that subterranean water flow has eroded a vast network of caves and grottos throughout the region. Mapping these will be a monumental effort and necessary to fully uncover the bounty of natural gas resources captured down here. What I don't understand is the amount of lye residue we're encountering. I'm going to try and touch base with some of my academic contacts and see if we can find any precedent for it. We'll have plenty of time to work that out, though. I've no doubt Bish will want to set up shop here and drill their little hearts out. This is Principal Geological Chemist Caroline Saunders for Bish National Gas Survey MD 16001. Consider this my authorization signature on sample site 3. Far as I'm concerned, this is a prime location for biogas harvesting and a treasure trove for some field research.
There we go. So she's like, yep, there's plenty of biogas here. This would be good, but also potential for a lot of research to be done. So this is what obviously caused the concern, that the company was worried that she was going to discover that it was all coming from the mass graves. So once you have all of that, you can enter the authorization codes from the holotapes. And that lets you access the expedition supplies. So now we can get into this safe, and there's a bunch of useful stuff. So you've got these biogas canisters, which let you they work as a thrown weapon, and you can throw them and they explode and cause fire, and it's all very flashy and exciting. You've got some radiation suits, some medication, some pre-war money, yeah, more radiation suits and stim packs and things. So quite useful wee cache of medical supplies. And the biogas canisters are kind of fun. That they can be used as grenade type weapons, and that could be quite useful. But there's a couple of fun references that I wanted to talk about with this particular quest in this location. So we've completed the quest. So the first kind of reference in this is the name of the ship, which is Ozymandias. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, so I do apologise. But that refers to a poem of the same name by Percy Bysshe Shelley. And the name of the company refers to him as well. So Ozymandias is the Greek word for pharaoh. And the poem is talking about, it's mainly talking about Ramesses II and about the inevitable decline of rulers and their hubris. And this poet, you might be wondering about the name, was also married to Mary Shelley, who was the author of Frankenstein, which is a story that's based on the story of Prometheus, and she is generally agreed to be the first science fiction writer, first science fiction author in the world. With the story of Frankenstein, I think there's a new film actually came out recently, but I haven't watched it yet. But so it's kind of interesting. And this poem by Percy Bysshe Shelley is also his most famous work. And the other reference, which is a kind of smaller one, is the real estate company that authorised this survey at Point Lookout is the Isla Negra Real Estate. And if you know your Spanish, you'll know that Isla Negra means Black Isle. So it's a sneaky little nod to Black Isle Studios, who brought us Fallout and Fallout 2. So just a cheeky wee nod to the developers of the original game. And in the description, I'll leave a link to the Wikipedia page about the Ozymandias poem, because I think it's quite interesting. And it does thematically tie in with a lot of the themes of what we see in Fallout and in Point Lookout. In particular, the idea of arrogance leading to one's own downfall, something that could easily be applied to both Desmond and Professor Calvert in this DLC, as well as the US government pre-war. And hubris is an interesting concept that we have seen played out in real life, and very likely we're going to see again and again, because people are going to be people, and that's kind of what happens. But it's an interesting one, and it's kind of a fun little quest that you can, when you find out that actually it's all to do with these kind of mass graves. So the Civil War is still having consequences hundreds of years later, and that kind of thing, and the fact that these companies are far more interested in acquiring the resources and not really wanting to show any respect to the fact that that this gas is being produced because there were so many bodies buried in the one spot that it was producing all this methane and things. So it's there's really quite a sad element to it as well, that we're kind of desecrating people's graves essentially, for the sake of having a wee bit more gas. But obviously the resource wars were a big thing, a big reason for all the kind of war with China and things was over the last remaining natural resources, and particularly fossil fuels like gas and oil. So again, it really does tie into the background of the Fallout games and what happened. So really quite an interesting side quest, this one, and I think thematically it really fits with everything else in the game. And there's the reference to the poem is quite interesting as well. So let me know what you think. Have you heard this poem before? Did you know about that connection, and the connection of the poet to Mary Shelley and Frankenstein and all that? It's really quite an interesting one. It is entirely possible, though, with researching some of the stuff about using lye in graves to speed up the decomposition process, so I'm probably on a watch list somewhere. But it's part and parcel of these things, and I'm an author, so that's sometimes you do have to research questionable topics when you're an author. It's part of the storytelling process. And you know, it's unpleasant to think about in some ways, but also very interesting. Very interesting, you know, and kind of proves that it's not actually that easy to hide a body as people might think, because there's ways and means of finding these things. So you know, something to keep in mind. Wise. Anyway, that's us for today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.